You spent hundreds, maybe thousands on a surround sound system, and yet when you sit down to watch a movie, it just doesn't feel right. The sound is loud, sure, but it's not immersive. It doesn't wrap around you like it does in a real cinema. You hear dialogue from the front, some noise from the back, but there's no magic, no envelopment. You start thinking maybe you bought cheap speakers or maybe surround sound is just overhyped. But here's the truth. Your speakers are probably fine. The real problem is almost certainly how you set them up. Most people get surround sound completely wrong, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it so you can finally experience real cinema sound at home. Before we dive in, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Which surround sound setup are you using right now, and what's the biggest problem you're facing with it? Let me know, because chances are we're going to solve it today. The big lie about surround sound. Let's start by clearing up the biggest misconception about surround sound. When most people think about upgrading their audio, they think about buying better speakers, more expensive drivers, bigger cabinets, fancier brands. And while speaker quality does matter, it's not the main reason your system sounds flat. The real secret to cinematic sound isn't in the speakers themselves, it's in where you put them and how you configure them. You can have the most expensive speakers in the world, but if they're in the wrong positions, at the wrong angles, and at the wrong heights, your system will never sound like a real cinema. Think of it this way. You wouldn't expect great stereo imaging if you put both your left and right speakers on the same side of the room, right? The same principle applies to surround sound, except now you're dealing with 5, 7, or even more speakers, and every single one of them has a specific job to do. When they're all in the right place, they create what's called a sound field, an invisible dome of audio that wraps around your listening position. When they're in the wrong place, you just get noise coming from random directions with no cohesion. Mistake number 1, wrong speaker. Placement. The biggest mistake people make is putting their surround speakers in completely the wrong location. I see this all the time. Someone sets up a 5.1 system and they put the surround speakers way behind the couch, mounted high on the back wall, pointing straight ahead. Or they tuck them into corners because that's where the furniture fits. Or they place them on shelves that happen to be convenient but are nowhere near the listening position. This destroys the entire purpose of surround sound. Let me explain how it's supposed to work. In a proper 5.1 setup, you have 3 speakers across the front, left, center, and right. Then you have 2 surround speakers, and here's the key. Those surrounds should be to the sides of your seating position, not behind you. Dolby, the company that literally invented surround sound formats, recommends placing those surrounds at roughly 110 to 120 degrees from your center front position. To visualize this, imagine you're sitting in your main seat looking straight at the TV. That's 0 degrees. Now turn your head to the left until you're looking almost directly to your side but slightly behind you. That's where your left surround should be. Same thing on the right. This creates a proper wraparound effect because sound is coming from beside you and slightly behind, not from way back against the wall. When surrounds are too far behind the listener, you lose that enveloping feeling. Instead of sound wrapping around you, it just comes from behind, and your brain perceives it as disconnected from the action on screen. You'll hear helicopters flying overhead, but they'll sound like they're in a different room. Footsteps will seem detached. Ambient sounds won't blend into the scene. The whole point of surround channels is to extend the soundstage beyond the front 3 speakers and make you feel like you're inside the movie, not watching it from the outside. Wrong placement kills that effect instantly. Mistake number 2, wrong speaker. Height. Now let's talk about height, because this is another area where people constantly mess up. There's a common instinct to mount surround speakers as high as possible, maybe because it keeps them out of the way or because it seems like sound from above would be more immersive, but that's not how it works. For a standard 5.1 or 7.1 system, your main speakers, the left, center, and right up front, should be at ear level when you're sitting down. That means if your ears are about 3.5 feet off the ground when you're seated, the tweeters on those speakers should be roughly at that same height. This ensures that dialogue and front soundstage effects hit you directly without bouncing off the floor or ceiling first. The center channel is especially critical because it handles most of the dialogue in movies. If your center is sitting inside a TV stand cabinet, or if it's way up above the screen, voices will sound muffled or distant. Pull that center speaker forward to the edge of the shelf, tilt it toward your ears, and you'll immediately notice clearer dialogue. For the surround speakers, the general recommendation is to place them slightly above ear level, usually about 1 to 2 feet higher. This creates a more diffuse sound field that feels enveloping rather than directional. If your surrounds are exactly at ear level, you'll hear them as distinct point sources, you'll be able to tell exactly where the sound is coming from, and that pulls you out of the experience. When they're a bit higher, the sound spreads out and blends better with the room, creating that cinema-like atmosphere. But don't go crazy and mount them at ceiling height unless you're setting up Dolby Atmos, which we'll talk about in a minute. For regular surround channels, 1 to 2 feet above your seated ear position is the sweet spot. Mistake number 3, ignoring room acoustics. Here's something most people never even think about. Your room is part of your sound system. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, the furniture, all of it affects how sound travels and how it reaches your ears. One of the biggest problems in home theater setups is something called early reflections. This is when sound from your speakers bounces off a nearby surface and arrives at your ears just a few milliseconds after the direct sound. Your brain can't separate the two, so instead of hearing a clear, focused sound, you hear a smeared, blurry version. This is especially problematic for dialogue and imaging. If you've ever felt like voices sound muddy or unclear, even though your center channel is in the right position, early reflections are probably the culprit. The most common reflection points are the sidewalls directly to the left and right of your listening position and the ceiling above you. To find these spots, you can use a simple mirror trick. Have someone hold a small mirror flat against the wall while you sit in your main seat. Move the mirror around until you can see the reflection of one of your speakers. That spot on the wall is a reflection point. Mark it. Do the same for the ceiling. Those are the areas where adding some acoustic treatment, like foam panels or fabric-wrapped absorbers, will make the biggest difference. You don't need to turn your living room into a recording studio, but treating just the first reflection points can dramatically improve clarity and imaging. Suddenly, dialogue becomes crisp, effects have more definition, and the sound feels tighter and more controlled. Mistake number 4, bad receiver settings. Even if you get the physical placement perfect, your system still won't sound right if the receiver settings are wrong. A lot of people run the automatic calibration that comes with modern AV receivers and then never touch the settings again. Auto calibration is helpful. It measures distances and sets levels, but it's not perfect. Sometimes it gets the speaker size wrong, or it sets weird crossover points, or it misjudges the room. You need to go in and verify the settings manually. Let's start with speaker size. In your receiver settings, you'll see an option to set each speaker as either large or small. This doesn't refer to the physical size of the speaker, it refers to how low in frequency that speaker will play. If you set a speaker to large, the receiver sends it full-range audio, including deep bass. If you set it to small, the receiver cuts off the bass below a certain point, usually 80 Hz, and sends that low bass to the subwoofer instead. Here's the thing. Unless you have massive tower speakers with dedicated woofers, you should almost always set your speakers to small. Even big bookshelf speakers struggle with deep bass, and if you force them to play it, you get muddy, bloated sound. By setting them to small and using a proper crossover, you let the subwoofer handle the low end while your main speakers focus on clean mid-range and dialogue. 80 Hz is a safe starting point for most systems. You can adjust from there based on your specific speakers, but 80 works for the vast majority of setups. And make sure your subwoofer level is balanced. A lot of people crank the sub way too high because they think more bass equals better sound. But if your bass is overpowering, it muddies everything else. The sub should blend seamlessly with the other speakers, adding weight and impact without calling attention to itself. Setting up 7.1. Correctly. If you're running a 7.1 system, you have 4 surround speakers instead of 2, and the placement rules change slightly. In 7.1, you have side surrounds and rear surrounds. The side surrounds should go directly to the left and right of your seating position, roughly 90 to 110 degrees from center. The rear surrounds go behind you, around 135 to 150 degrees. This creates a more complete sound field because now you have coverage both to your sides and directly behind you. The key is to angle the rear surrounds inward, pointing them toward the center of the seating area. If they're aimed straight ahead or out toward the walls, the sound scatters and you lose focus. Angling them in ensures that the rear channels contribute to the overall envelopment without becoming distracting. A lot of people make the mistake of treating 7.1 like 5.1 with 2 extra speakers thrown randomly into the mix. They put all 4 surrounds on the back wall because that's easier, or they spread them out unevenly. This defeats the purpose. 7.1 is designed to give you better side-to-side and front-to-back imaging, but only if the speakers are in the correct positions. If you can't place the speakers properly, you're better off sticking with 5.1 and doing that right than half doing 7.1. Understanding Dolby Atmos. Now let's talk about Dolby Atmos, which adds a height dimension to your surround sound. Atmos is amazing when done correctly, but it's also the most commonly botched setup because people don't understand how it works. Atmos uses overhead channels to create sound that comes from above you. Helicopters flying overhead actually sound like they're overhead. Rain falls from the ceiling. It's incredibly immersive. But to get that effect, you need speakers in the right places. The best option is in-ceiling speakers, mounted directly above or slightly in front of your seating position according to Dolby's layout guides. If in-ceiling isn't possible, you can use height speakers mounted high on the front or side walls, again following Dolby's approved placement diagrams. What doesn't work is just throwing up-firing speakers on top of your existing speakers and hoping for the best. Up-firing Atmos speakers bounce sound off the ceiling to simulate height, and in the perfect room with the perfect ceiling, they can work okay. But most ceilings aren't flat and reflective enough, and most rooms have too many variables. If you're serious about Atmos, invest in proper height channels, and remember your main left, center, and right speakers should still be at ear level. Atmos adds height, it doesn't replace proper front speaker positioning. Dialogue clarity, the center channel. Fix. Let's circle back to the center channel for a moment because this is so important. The center channel handles about 60% of the audio in most movies, including almost all dialogue. If your center isn't set up right, your entire system sounds wrong. The center should be aimed directly at your main listening position. If it's sitting flat on a shelf inside a TV stand, the sound is bouncing around inside the cabinet before it reaches you, and that colors the tone and reduces clarity. Pull it forward to the front edge of the shelf, or better yet, put it on a small stand that raises it up and tilts it toward your ears. Some people try to hide the center speaker behind the TV or off to the side for aesthetic reasons. Don't do that. The center needs a clear path to your ears. If you absolutely can't put it in the ideal spot, at least angle it as much as possible toward the seating area, and in your receiver settings, make sure the center channel level is set correctly. If it's too low, dialogue gets buried under music and effects. If it's too high, voices sound unnatural and disconnected. Use a calibration mic or a sound meter app to balance all your speakers, but pay extra attention to the center. A well-balanced center channel makes everything else fall into place. Bringing it all together. So let's recap what we've covered. Real cinema sound at home isn't about buying the most expensive speakers. It's about putting the right speakers in the right places and configuring them correctly. Your 5.1 surrounds should be beside you, not way behind. Your 7.1 setup needs both side and rear surrounds, placed according to the layout guides. Your Atmos speakers need real height placement, not guesswork. Your main speakers should be at ear level, your surrounds slightly above. Your center channel needs to be aimed at your ears and set to the right level. Your receiver settings should use small speakers with proper crossovers, not large speakers that muddy the bass. And your room should be treated at the first reflection points to reduce smear and improve clarity. When you get all of this right, the transformation is incredible. Suddenly, your living room sounds like a real cinema. Effects swirl around you, dialogue is crystal clear, bass is tight and impactful. The soundstage extends beyond the screen and wraps you in the scene. You stop noticing the speakers and start experiencing the movie. That's what surround sound is supposed to do, and that's what you've been missing if you've been setting it up wrong all this time.
If this video helped you understand how to fix your surround sound setup, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. Drop a comment below and let me know what changes you're going to make to your system. Are you moving your surrounds? Adjusting your center? Treating your room? I want to hear about it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because we've got more home theater tips, audio breakdowns, and tech deep dives coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.